Swagatam Suswagatam. I am deeply honored to extend a warm welcome to all of you on this momentous occasion, the launch of the first native voice of Madras, Gajula Laxminarasu Chetty. I invite all our guests, Sri Iraka Sudhakar Garu, Sri Kasturi Rangan Garu, and Sri Jagannath Garu to come forward for Deepa Prajwalan.
Amruta Ya Veena Varadanda Manditakara Ya Shveta Padmasana Shuklam Brahma Visharasara Parama Adyav Jagad Vyapinim Veena Pustakadharinim Abhayadam Jadyandhakarapaha Haste Sphatikamalikam Vidhadatim Padmasane Samsthita Buddhi Pradam Sharadam.
Sri Kasturi Ranganji and all my friends and sisters. I never expected this kind of a gathering, a very elite, learned gathering on a day like this, inclement weather, incessant rain. Despite that, so many people have turned up, and that shows your enthusiasm and interest in knowing about Gajula Laxminarasu Chetty and his work. Friends, I first heard about Laxminarasu Chetty way back in 1995 when I read an article published in a Telugu cultural magazine called Misimi, published by Sri Alapati Ravindranath Chowdhury, if I am not wrong. And there, what interested me, and in fact what surprised me, was that this man was able to mobilize the support of over 75,000 people, collected their signatures and presented it to the powers that be of that time, and fought against the massive network of proselytization that was supported by the British officials, the traders, the administrators, and the pastor network, the missionary network. Later, this book, particularly when I went through this book, there are several insights about Laxminarasu Chetty, not just about Laxminarasu Chetty, but also about the situation in Madras Presidency in those days. Dear friends, this story of Indian traders, entrepreneurs and businessmen has not been told properly. Not many of us study about them. Not many of us try to comprehend their contribution to the country. For instance, we never know the story of Lala Jagat Seth. Seths, there are three categories: Seth, Nagar Seth and Jagat Seth. Jagat Seth is considered to be the richest man. Lala Jagat Seth was the richest man who funded Clive Lloyd so that he could wage a war against Siraj-ud-Dawla. Because Siraj-ud-Dawla was a tormentor of the Hindu community in the hapless region of West Bengal. Even now we see West Bengal and East Bengal suffering under the yoke of fanatic fundamentalists. The same story. So Lala Jagat Seth supported Clive. Little did he realize that he was opening the floodgates to the arrival of the British tsunami, and how it overpowered us and then ruled us for over 200 years. Then there is this story of Seth Bhimji Parekh, who in 1675 went to England, purchased the first Indian printing machine, brought to India and wanted to publish literature about our Puranas, Shastras, Itihasa from Bombay in all Indian languages. He wanted to prepare the types for the letters for the press, and the Britishers have deceived him and he could not achieve it. That's a different matter, but Bhimji Parekh, a very intrepid entrepreneur who went all the way to England to do this. Then this Dahgaon Laxminarasu of Karimnagar. He was a daily wager who went to the central provinces and Berar, which now part of it is Nagpur and Vidarbha region. He struck gold there. He became a rich entrepreneur, and when famine struck the central provinces, he opened all his treasures and emptied them in front of the British administrators so that they can take up welfare works. And for that, the Queen Victoria sent a special commendation letter to Dahgaon Laxminarasu. His statue stands tall and proud right in front of the engineering college in Nagpur University even today. Then there is this story of Kovvuri Basivireddy Zamindar, a very interesting character. There are 20 Basivireddy Petas in West Godavari district alone. He was a philanthropist par excellence. The greatness of Basivireddy Zamindar was that he wrote a letter to the Britishers saying that I would like to offer food to every train passenger who comes to Samalkot station in East Godavari district. And Samalkot thus became a junction where every train passenger of every train that comes from all the way from Calcutta, Jagdalpur, Bilaspur, Raipur, Delhi, so on and so forth, they were fed by Karri Basivireddy Zamindar, and his chowltry still stands there. The British government gave him a golden railway ticket so that whenever he produces the railway ticket, a special coach was arranged for him. That is Karri Basivireddy Zamindar. And Gajula Laxminarasu Chetty also falls in this category, an intrepid entrepreneur who saw opportunity and who traded with the Britishers, who saw eye to eye with the Britishers, who not just traded with them, but he was ready to take on their might and fight for the rights of the natives, the Hindu people of Madras Presidency, which now is Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, part of Karnataka put together. But Narasu Chetty is not known just for his philanthropy and his trade entrepreneurial skills, his business acumen. He was much more than that. Interestingly, Chetty, the word Chetty comes from the Sanskrit word Shreshti. Shreshti has become Chetty in Tamil Nadu, Shetty in Andhra Pradesh, Shetty in Karnataka, Sethi or Seth in North India. The root of the word is same. In this early parts of the 19th century, he mobilized the support of the local people against the proselytization activities of the Christians, which is a no mean achievement. A suppressed people, oppressed by the British authorities, the East India Company, he was able to mobilize support from the people and fought against conversions. Not just against conversions, he also fought against the torture that the British businessmen and their agents were perpetrating on the people of the Madras Presidency. Incidentally, not just Madras Presidency, the same kind of famine was faced in West Bengal, in central provinces, in Punjab and all parts of the country. In fact, British were responsible for over 33 massive genocidal famines which almost reduced the country's population by a third. Then, his work can be compared to the work that Kruttiventi Perraju Pantulu and Nyapati Subbarao did in Rajamandri. And everyone who fought for the natives or the local people, the Hindu population, they are organized in the name of Hindu. Nyapati Subbarao, who was instrumental in the founding of the Hindu magazine, he founded an organization called Hindu Samajam, which exists till today in Rajamandri. It's almost a 2-acre chunk of swath of land where a lot of activities take place. Same way, education was one area where the fight back of the local communities have happened. Bandar College, very interesting story about how the Hindu college of Bandar was formed. A man had a tiff with his wife. He wanted a particular kind of curry to be cooked. She refused. So he went to the church and he got converted. He became a Christian. The news spread like a wildfire, and the whole society in Bandar town was so agitated that the people came onto the streets, and the Tahsildar of that region, a Telugu speaking Tahsildar, he immediately, instantaneously resigned his job. He spread his Uttariyam on the street. He sat there and collected funds and started the Hindu College of Bandar. Same way, Narsu Chetty was instrumental in the founding of Pachayappa's College, where my Chitti, my Pinni, also studied and graduated. I visited the college when I was a young guy. Guntur also, you have a Hindu college, which was founded as a reaction, as the people's answer to Andhra Christian Theological College, ACTC. Not many people know that the Hindu College of Bandar is a reaction of the people to the proselytizers. So Narasu Chetty also worked for the emancipation, the religious, cultural and financial emancipation of the people of the Madras Presidency. And this has been ably brought out in this book, which would formally be inaugurated later in this program, but I am showing you so that you can get a feel of the personality, how you would imagine a man wearing the Tirunamams and the pagadi, going to the Britishers, interacting with them and convincing them or pressurizing them, acting as an lobbyist also. Friends, there is one point that I think we should all remember, that is the geographical boundaries that we see today are temporary. Madras and the Sarkars, the coastal Andhra Pradesh was one unit. There were many interfaces. Our culture is very unique. A Tulu speaking Raja founds an empire in Hampi, which is on the border of Karnataka and Andhra Pradesh. His kingdom extends to Karnataka and parts of Tamil Nadu, and then he encourages Telugu literature, he promotes the poetry, he himself writes Amukta Malyada. So the geographical boundaries that we see today did not exist till 1950s. Similarly, a Maratha king who rules Tanjavur, which is part of Tamil Nadu, runs a library which has the largest collection of Telugu books, Saraswati Mahal Library. Saraswati. So the geographical boundaries that we see today did not exist, and there were many interfaces where people from different languages used to come and meet. Lakshminarasu Chetty, who was a Telugu speaking person, ran a magazine or a periodical or a newspaper which had content in Telugu, Tamil, English and even Kannada. So this is something very remarkable feature that we can find in this man. Interestingly, Jagannathji, we are the same thing, that there is a huge Tamil population right here in Hyderabad, and the place where we are standing is represented by a Tamilian. The local MLA is Mr. Ganesh, who is a Tamilian. He represents the Secunderabad cantonment. We had the Alwal municipality till recently, as long as it was a municipality. The municipal chairperson's name was Jeevakan, who is from Tamil Nadu. And we had a huge Tamil population in Hyderabad. There is a lane called Kandaswamy Lane in Ramkot area, which is known for binding works. See, Narasu Chetty also started a printing press and a binding organization. Look at the kind of convergence. And there is an area in Hyderabad, Secunderabad called Padmarao Nagar. It is named after Raja Bahadur Padmarao Modaliyar, who was a minister in Nizam's government and who was instrumental in starting a school for boys much against the wishes of Nizam. And the name of the college is Mehboob College. It was Mehboob School, then it became Mehboob College. He named it after Mehboob, who is the father of Nizam, so that Nizam would not oppose. Tamilians are very clever people that way. And then he established a school for girls and he named it after the military officer in the Secunderabad cantonment. His name was Keys. The name of the wife was Mrs. Keys. The name of the school is Keys High School, which is now a very big cultural center for the Tamil population in Hyderabad. So there was intermixing of the population. So Laxminarasu Chetty also was a product of his times, where he was both with he was a Telugu working in Tamil Nadu, and then there are accounts of his tours across Tamil Nadu and as far as up to Rajahmundry and East Godavari and West Godavari, for the sake of collection of and documentation for the torture commission that he had set up. So Narsu Chetty that way has helped to build awareness through Indian Madras Crescent, which is a newspaper, started somewhere in 1830s, 1840s. Remember, that was 10 or 15 years before the 1857 War of Independence. Then he was an advocacy activist. He, unlike many of our nationalist activists who do not believe in documentation, हमारा काम बोलता है, documentation की क्या ज़रूरत है? This man believed in documentation. He documented each and every torture that the native people, the Hindu locals, have endured because of the illegal practices of the Britishers. He was an activist, he was a protester. He was instrumental in organizing what is known as Vibhuti protests. The Vibhuti protests, they would smear Vibhuti on the foreheads of the Christian missionaries when they came to preach. This was a revolt which started in those days, and though Narsu Chetty was not in the forefront, he was the inspirational figure for this movement too. So friends, before I wind up, I have a couple of points that I want to place before the people of this people in this hall. There is a great need to study about the figures of the pre-Dravidian politics in Tamil Nadu and Sarkars, which is the Andhra Pradesh of today. For instance, we all have seen the movie KGF. This is a story of a laborer who had made it big. And we have all watched it and we appreciated the action of that KGF hero, some Hegde, or I do not remember his name. Yash, okay. But the real KGF hero's name is Munuswamy, who was a daily wage laborer, who made it big. He started an organization, he set up a gold company. From a laborer, he became an entrepreneur. And not just an entrepreneur, at the later stage of his life, he takes sannyasa, becomes Swami Sahajananda and represents Chidambaram till 1959 undefeated. We need to tell the story of Swami Sahajananda, a Dalit by today's standard, how he emancipated himself and how he made himself a revered figure. We must talk about Madura Pillai and Bhuminayak and Ramanuja Dasar, who have worked in the KGF area, the Kolar Goldfield area, and have set up a gold company in Andhra Pradesh. MC Raja, how many of us remember MC Raja? MC Raja and Hindu Mahasabha leader Balakrishna Shivaram Munje, B.S. Munje, they entered into a pact so that there are reservations for the scheduled caste people, the people from the scheduled caste communities. this was different from Ambedkar's formula of separate electorate for the Dalits. He is the forerunner of the reservation system in the legislatures and the law-making houses that we have today. His story needs to be told. What about Muthuramalinga Devar, an associate of Subhash Chandra Bose? Subhash Chandra Bose went all the way from Kolkata to his place, I think Madurai, addressed a public meeting just for the sake of his friendship with Muthuramalinga Devar. Also, stories about the Devans of those regions need to be told. This book talks about the achievements of Purnaya, who was the Devan of Mysore. How he brought in education for the girl child way back in those days, almost 100-150 years ago. Mysore was one state which was, Mysore and Baroda were two states where girl child education, women education was always encouraged. Mysore Maharaja was influenced by Purnaya and also Swami Vivekananda. So these stories, Nyapati Madhavrao, who was the Devan of Mysore, Tanjavur Madhavrao, who was the Devan of Travancore, also the story of Arcot Ramswamy Mudaliar and Arcot Lakshminaraswamy Mudaliar, both brothers, and the role they played in the integration of Lakshadweep in India. Sardar Patel writes to them, calls them up and asks them to go to Lakshadweep and hoist the flag of India before Pakistani Navy comes. They did not share the Congress party ideology, they were from the Justice Party. But despite political differences, when it came to the question of nationalism and country, they buried their differences and worked together. These stories need to be told, and unless we tell these stories, I think our CSIS or Dakshina Patha studies, I think they have their task cut out, and we need to tell these stories, and these stories must go to the nook and cranny of the society. In fact, the story of the freedom struggle in South India is also very important. When we talk about the Gadar party, we always talk about Kartar Singh Saraba, Lala Hardayal, Bhai Paramanand and Sohan Singh Bakna. We never talk about Darshi Chenchaya, who is from Darshi in Prakasham district, who was one of the founding members of the Gadar party. Same way, what about Vanchinathan? What about Shanbagaraman Pillai? Shanbagaraman Pillai is the person who has actually started the address, Jai Hind. It was later picked up by his friend Abid Hassan Zafrani, who is also from Hyderabad and a close associate of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. It was Zafrani who suggested that Jai Hind be used as the war cry for the Azad Hind Fauj. But behind Abid Hassan Zafrani is Shanbagaraman Pillai, who organized the Hindu youth, Indian youth in Zurich, in Switzerland, in all these Germany and all these parts. Even in Vienna. He passes away in Zurich after being poisoned by Hitler, and he tells his wife, who is an orphan from Manipur, that my ashes must be dispersed in a river near, I think that is Coimbatore or Kerala, Tambaram, close to Tirunelveli. And in 1960, on knowing about this, Indira Gandhi arranges for the ashes to be brought to Tambaram and then to be immersed. These stories, inspiring stories, need to be told. One interesting point about this book is that nowhere in this book, nowhere in this account is there a mention of the Dravidian ideology. The author specifically, Jagannathji specifically mentions in one page that throughout this whole story, there is no mention of there is no Dravidian discourse at that point in time. Look at the words they used in this book. For example, he talks about an inspiring personality called Arunmuga Navalar. who is from essentially from Sri Lanka, because Sri Lanka was till 1935 part of India. It was only in 1935 that Sri Lanka and Burma were separated from this country. That's a different story. He sets up a school in the Tamil parts of Sri Lanka. The name of the school, please listen to it, Shaiva Prakasha Vidya Shala. All the 4 letters, Sanskrit words. No Dravidian ideology. And there is a Sabha established promoted by Gajula Laxminarasu Chetty. The name of the Sabha is Madras Upayukta Grandha Karana Sabha. Upayukta Grandha Karana Sabha, not one word, every word is Sanskrit. How did Sanskrit disappear from the Tamil discourse is an issue that we need to ponder over. And there, when they wrote the dates, they specifically mentioned Kali Yugadi 4952. Kali Yugadi. I was introduced to Kali Yugadi in 1995, 2000 when Moropanji Pingle started talking about Kali Yugadi. But way back in those days, in the 18th century or early parts of the 19th century, the people of Tamil Nadu were talking about Kali Yugadi, Anka Ganitam, Purnanka Ganitam. All these words are Sanskrit words. Where did Sanskrit disappear? One interesting name of a printing press that I found is Vidyanupalana Yantrashala. That was 18th century. Today there is a movie called Yantran, which is Robo of Rajinikanth. The spelling that is written is not Yantran, but the spelling is Endhiran. For a non-Tamil like me, it is Endiran. What is Endiran? It could be the sister of Indiran. That's the problem. So, even spellings were altered in such a way, Yantra became Endira. So, this story, this book actually talks about how this narrative, the original narrative of the 1830s, 1820s and early 19th century, and this original narrative needs to be brought back, and that is the task that we have cut out before us. And I personally feel this is a very important contribution, because unless we know about Gajula Laxminarasu Chetty, we will never know about how ordinary people fought against proselytization, how ordinary people were made part of the efforts to fight the conversion mafia, how an ordinary trader who was only interested in profits, losses, shares, debentures, who founded the first, Chamber of Commerce, Madras Chamber of Commerce, who was the founding member, but was still interested in the, immoral practices, inhuman practices of the British traders. The story of those tortures needs to be retold so that the present generation knows that, because we are now given to understand that Britishers are the biggest knowledge givers for the Indian society, and everything good that is good in Indian society has come from the Britishers. But this book dispels that wrong notion. So, I personally feel this is a great contribution, very well written, and he also talks about how Hindu, this Madras Native Association and the Hindu printing press was the forerunner for the Hindu magazine, Hindu newspaper rather. How this was a forerunner for Hindu. I think we need to make Hindu truly Hindu, and that is where our job lies. And I commend and congratulate and compliment Sri Jagannath ji for the hard work, I could see the hard work that he has put in. He must have spent hours in the archives department. People is so difficult. Archaeology department and archives department are the most insensitive people around, but he was able to get through those, obstacles and publish this book and get this material out, and some of the accounts are truly very, very revealing. I suggest that you read this book, spread this, gift this book to your friends and make them read, and there should be, discussions organized on what Gajula Laxminarasu Chetty could do in those days and what we can do today, given that we are very well equipped, the atmosphere is in our favor. So, our job, I think, our current responsibilities, the first lessons for the present responsibility lies in this book. So, I strongly recommend, I forcefully recommend this book as a must read for every nationalist person. Dhanyawad, thank you so much.
Good evening all. I should thank Ayuji and Kalyan to call me so many times, because I mentally made up to come over here. I missed the absorbing talk of though I listened to you many times, though a person hailing from Tamil Nadu, studied in a Dravidian atmosphere. We are not aware what is there, who are our people. We are deprived of, until today, we are deprived of studying Hindi. So I studied Hindi because I taken an Hindi Prachar Sabha, I studied. But even today, many people are deprived of listening Hindi literature, Hindi school, nobody is aware. And we are in such atmosphere that entire Tamil Nadu was created only by the Dravidian parties only. That was the situation today also. But fortunately, now education system has changed, many people are studying. But still, the most of the Tamil Nadu, interior part of Tamil Nadu, still they think, because we don't know what is the context, because he is talking about so many things, we give him this name. 99% of Tamil Nadu people does not know who is this Chetty. They think that he is from Andhra. Nothing to do with Tamil Nadu. That is how we have been brought up. Fortunately, we have been joined with Sangh. So Sangh has given me, RS has given me all these thoughts. Who were joined Sangh, they only came to know so much of history is there in our country. Otherwise, we are not aware about anything. So it's a really great pleasure that to CSA is doing excellent. The purpose of the CSA itself to bring out those unknown heroes. There are many people are there who really fought for the state. That too, because when it comes to the freedom movement, we talk more about the North Indian participation, who are there. Because we have been aware only about when it comes to any freedom movement will come about Bhagat Singh, Nehru, Gandhi, those people only will come. But there is an equal amount of participation is there from Tamil Nadu also. See, these kind of books will give you a pride. Oh, all this participation is there when before the first war of independence, a person came from such a background, he fought against the mighty British Empire, and that too for a Hindu cause, which is a forbidden word in Tamil Nadu today. The moment you say Hindu, how to divide? They want to become Trivulvar as a Christian. And Murugan is a Christian God. So that is the tempo we are trying to do. Even Chidambaram, somehow they want to make a Chidambaram culture, they want to demolish. So such a kind of, these kind of books really will give a different perspective. I should thank, because people from Tamil Nadu should aware what is the contribution they made. So I will try to do my little bit for this also. But it is a great pleasure of the way in which Raghasagarji explained what are the contribution from the people from basically from Tamil Nadu, where today we have language barrier. I gone to Saraswati Mahatam library. I seen so many books, because that time there was no language. Today we seen about when it comes to language fight. No, those days we never had that kind of situation. That Saraswati Mahatam library is one of the great examples. So Raghasagarji, which though we hear about it, we are not aware about all the, I am not aware about all these things particularly. In thought, I tagged Jagannathanji also to bring us such a marvelous book, to give you an insight, to give a thought about to the people, which is very essential for the generation and more essential for a state like Tamil Nadu. Thank you very much.
I'd like to request our esteemed dignitaries on the stage to kindly do the honors of launching the book. Our esteemed author, Sri B. Jagannath Garu, has served as an advocate at the Madras High Court for over 15 years, honing his legal expertise and dedication to justice. He has had the privilege of being associated with the esteemed office of late Sri R. Muthukumaraswamy, a former Advocate General and President of Madras Bar Association. As a devout Hindu, Sri Jagannath Garu embarked a profound spiritual pilgrimage at the age of 28, visiting 106 Vaishnava Daiva Desams, 12 Jyotirlingas, and 6 Padai Murugan temples. Beyond his spiritual endeavors, he plays a vital role on the project management committee of the Advocates Ulavar Pani team, and his legal acumen is sought after as a trusted advisor to various institutions. It's my great honor to invite our distinguished author, Sri B. Jagannath Garu, to come forward and share his thoughts with us.
First and foremost, I would like to thank my senior, Mr. R. Muthukumaraswamy, whom she just mentioned. He is my senior, he is my guru, he is my God. If not for my senior, I wouldn't be standing here in front of all of you today. So I would like to thank my senior, Mr. R. Muthukumaraswamy, who is no longer with me. If not for him, I wouldn't be standing here in front of all of you. So next, I would like to thank the people who have given the foreword for the book. Honorable Justice S. Vaidyanathan, who is former Chief Justice of Meghalaya High Court. I would like to at this point of time thank Mr. N. Ravi, who is the former Chief Editor of the Hindu group of companies, who is the descendant of Kasturi Rangan Iyengar. And last but not the least, I would also like to thank Sri T.S. Krishnan, who is a great grandson of Subramanya Shiva, who is residing in Secunderabad, but today he couldn't come at the last moment due to inclement weather. He couldn't come. So he has also given the foreword. And various people who have been associated, for example, Mr. K.V. Balasubramaniam and Mr. Om Prakash, and also in Telugu we have the Telugu translator Mr. Vetulla Narasimhan, who has also translated the book in Telugu. So I would like to thank all of them. I would like to also thank Mr. Sandeep of Center for South Indian Studies. I would like to thank Center for South Indian Studies. Most importantly, I would like to thank Mr. Kumaresan over here. I would like all of you to please give a round of applause for him. Please get up, Ji. Let them see. It's Mr. Kumaresan here. He is the blue-eyed boy of CSIS in Madras. So that's why he's wearing a blue dress today. Kumaresan ji, if not for his help, we have worked very hard. We have burned the midnight oil, and we have struggled very hard to have written this book and to have done this. And also, I would like to thank a few editors who have helped me in me releasing this book. Also, the Governor of Madras, Honorable Sri R.N. Raviji. Without his cooperation, I wouldn't be standing here. So I would like to thank him profusely for all the help that he has done. I would also like to thank the Pachepa institution at this point of time, who have agreed for a memorial on the 6th of September, because he is one of the main important trustees of the Pachepa institution, which is a beacon of hope. So I would like to thank them at this moment. I would like to thank G, who is sitting there right now, and Ayush Ji, who is sitting there right now. I would also like to thank Sunil Ambedkar Ji and various people, including Prasob Ji of Chennai, who has been of great help to us. I would like to also thank my parents, my wife and my daughter, and most importantly, I would like to thank my friends in the legal community, and last but not the least, my office colleagues. My present seniors, Mr. Jinesen, if not for his support, I wouldn't be here today. So I would like to take this opportunity to thank my present senior, Mr. A. Jinesenan, his son Abhishek Jinesenan, and all my office colleagues who have been supportive of me in doing this particular work. I would like to also thank the Tamil Nadu State Archives. If not for their permission, I wouldn't have done this book. I would like to thank the Kanimara Library, Mr. Singaravelan, in the old Kanimara Library, who has helped us a lot by giving us the almanac. Maureen Heath of the British Library in London, and Scott Trevana Connors of Cornwall and Gaius College and University of Cambridge, Mr. J.S. Vishnu Hariram and Vishnu Achyuta Menon, who have been helpful to me as as a great help, as a solid force in me writing this book. Mr. Satish of CSIS, also Dharani, and also our please get up, Mr. Arvind here of CSIS. Thank you. All the staff of CSIS in Hyderabad and of Samit Prakasham. Samit Prakasham are the publishers. Ma'am, thank you so much for this particular thing. Please, sir, please get up, please. If not for Samit Prakasham, this work would not have come out. You have a great role to play in publishing this book. So I would like to thank you so much, ma'am, for giving me an opportunity to write and for you to publish this book. Thank you so much.
So there are many of us, and secondly, we are indebted to you.
Thanks, ma'am. Thanks, ma'am. Thanks so much. Thanks, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. I would also like to, at this point of time, thank Advocate Mr. Sharma of New Delhi. His name is Mayank Sharma of New Delhi. He had helped me in getting the copyright. Most important thing as an advocate, as you all know, that we need to have the copyright for maintaining the originality of the book. So to maintain the originality of the book, to stay with us, we got the copyright from the Copyright Office. So I would like to also thank the Copyrights Office of the Ministry of Human Resources and Development Government of India. I would also like to thank the journalists in the Madras High Court. Since I come from the legal background, we have an association in Madras High Court called the Madras High Court Journalists Association, and we have various journalists attached to Madras High Court who cover our proceedings regularly. To make this reach also to the public, they have played a very pivotal role, and they were very selfless in doing so. So I would like to thank them also at this point of time. I would also thank Mr. Ganesh and Dinesh, who are two brothers who have helped me in ensuring that this book has come out. And last but not the least, the person who asked me to write this book was a person called Mr. Ramkumar, who is not here, who is the managing director of Gemini Communications and Amion Lab. Ramkumar sir has been a pillar of great support for me, and in fact few aspects in this book, the entire book which I wrote was initially, we didn't have a plan or thinking of writing a book, but it was Mr. Ramkumar's support that ensured that I finally decided we will write this book, and come what may, whatever happens, we will make sure that this story is told in a very neutral, unbiased manner. There will be no bias or anything to see from a particular perspective. So it will be done in a very unbiased manner. And that's why we have a chapter called A Few Good Englishmen also in the book. So it's to say more of that. So I would like to thank all of them who have helped me in releasing this book. Coming to the book, about this person, G has already spoken about this person. His name is Gajula Laxminarasu Chetty. There is a person called Sidulu Chetty who lived in Madras. The story starts from 1806, where you had a person called Sidulu Chetty who resided in Madras. Now he was a very big cotton merchant. He was equal in riches to one of the most richest people in Madras at the point of time, and he shared shoulders with people like Binni of the Buckingham and Carnatic Mills and the Binni Mills. You have Arbuthnot, who was a very rich person, and Orcharloni, and various other rich people who were there in Madras at that point of time. So he was one of the first native founding members of the Madras Chamber of Commerce. Now there is a street which is there in his name called Sadula Street, which still exists in Madras in his honor, called Sidulu Street, which is still there in the area of Chula in Madras. In that background, he was born. Gajula Laxminarasu Chetty was born. And he was born, as we know, he is born to a very, very wealthy family. In fact, to one of the most wealthiest families in Madras. To say that he was the Ambani of Madras Presidency at that point of time, or Adani of Madras Presidency, it would not be an exaggeration. And being born to such an illustrious family, he could see widespread torture, he could see the brutality of the British he could see how we as native Indians were being trampled by the British on all walks of life. So what he decided was that at one point of time it was so unbearable that he decided that he had to do something for the natives, because God had endowed him with such a big industry. The company's name was Gajula Chetty and Sons. Gajula Chetty and Sons was a veritable name because in trade they had been manufacturing handkerchiefs, they were indulging in cotton trade, in export of cotton, in indigo dye, muslin, and they had exported to various countries like the Americas and to Great Britain and to France and to various other countries. And such a big company at that point of time, Gajula Chetty and Sons was not an ordinary company. It was such a big company at that point of time that he got the mantle to run that company. And despite at that point of time running that company, he got time to do all of these things that he has done. That is the most important aspect that we have to understand. Now imagine this, in 1836, in 1833 actually, because I think right now we are in Telangana, it was previously unified Andhra. In 1833 we had something called as the Guntur famine, where millions and millions of people died. I don't know how many of you know this in history. In 1833 we had one of the worst famines in the Madras Presidency called as the Guntur famine, which was a man-made artificial famine by the British. Now 500,000 people, in fact more than that, the account what we know right now is 500,000 people, but more than that died, and there was widespread poverty. They just ensured that our backbone was, buckled down. We had to buckle down under the British pressure. What was a thriving, successful economic region for the British? The entire Madras Presidency. You want rice? We had rice bowls. You want cotton? We had ample cotton fields. You need cash crops? We had huge cash crops. You need to do trade? We had wealthy, intelligent tradesmen, businessmen, political acumen. Everything was there endowed in the entire Madras Presidency I am talking about. You had military leaders, everybody was there. Everything was available at plenty in Madras Presidency even before the British had arrived. In 1833, this famine happens, and then the Madras Chamber of Commerce is formed by Gajula Chetty and Sons and also by various other people at that point of time, including the British. The native Indians at that point of time, one of the most prominent native Indians as a founding member of Madras Chamber of Commerce is Gajula Chetty and Sons. In 1838, what happens in Madras is something which is very appalling. The British tried to introduce government, they try to distinguish between schools which is run by Indians, where we give Veda Padashalas, we give three teachings through Veda Padashalas. We also give teachings through various other sources, and we also have our own native system. In fact, at that point of time we had community learning which was sustained as a result of continuous endowment of land, which will ensure that the education for the native Indians sustained. The largest number of benefactors through the community which was surviving, community sense, I am talking as native community as a whole, as we Indians on the whole, was the present days people whom we called as a scheduled caste Dalit people. They were the largest benefactors. 75% of them who studied the education at that point of time were Dalits. So we had to give back to the society, because this is the land of Saint Ramanuja, where discrimination on the basis of caste was not allowed, and the word called Tirukulathar was applied by Saint Ramanuja to say that everybody who is born in this world is equal in the eyes of God. This principle was propounded in Tamil Nadu by Saint Ramanuja 1000 years back. This we have to understand. Now in 1839, what happens is, on the 11th of November 1839, we have a petition which is drawn. The reference number is MSSEUR 762. This is the reference number of the petition. It is available even now in St. Pancras room, in St. Pancras reading room in the British Library in London. Even now it is available. That particular scroll has about 70,000 signatures. Not one, not two, it has 70,000 signatures. Imagine for a moment, you don't have electricity, you don't have telephone, you don't have WhatsApp, you don't have telegraph, you don't have railways, nothing, you don't have email, you don't have any kind of communication. How can you mobilize 70,000 people for them to come and sign? And this is even now today preserved. This is the scroll petition which we have taken. The photo is there. Even today it is preserved in the British Library in London. And I would like to thank the British Library for giving a photo of that through Scott Trevano-Cornish and for acknowledging its presence over there in London. Imagine for a moment, so much of signatures is given to the governor at that point of time. The governor at that point of time is Lord Elphinstone. Now he receives the petition. The petition contains 5 important demands of the people of Madras. Number 1, there has to be religious neutrality as far as the education is concerned, which means that when the British is giving education, you should be neutral as far as religion is concerned, and you should not have any favoritism towards a particular religion. Point 1. Point number 2, insofar as the education aspect is concerned, native Indians shall be given importance and higher position as far as education is concerned. This is the second thing. The third most important thing is, we as native Indians have our own system of having community the schools that was completely destroyed by the British. So we wanted to ensure that we empower ourselves to have our own native Indian schools, which would be equal and it will be parallel to universities like Oxford and like Cambridge, which we could start here in Madras with our own funding, with our own money, with our own teachers for our own people, and it will just be administered or overseen by the British and they will not interfere. These were one of the most key demands which was there in the 1839 petition. On 1/1/1840, Sir George Norton, who was the Advocate General of the Supreme Court of Madras at that point of time, was appointed as the president of something called as the Madras University in Pantheon Road. We have the Madras University building right now over here in Beach in Madras. That building came subsequently in 1860s. The actual place where the Madras University functioned was in Pantheon Road. We have that evidence also, which we have given in the book. Tomorrow if somebody comes and says it is because of the British, the benevolence of the British, that you have Madras University created, because Madras University, as you know, is considered to be the mother of all universities across the presidency in Madras. I am talking about including Telangana, including Andhra, including Karnataka, including Mysore, including the Malabar coast, and including up to Orissa and Ganjam. Till there people came to study in Madras University subsequently after it was established. So Madras University was considered to be the mother of all universities because it was one of the most important first universities which was established at the point of time by the British. The British did not do it out of benevolence towards the natives. The British did that because of the pressure which was put upon by them as a result of the scroll petition. And next time if somebody is going to come and say it was the British who gave us the education, yes, they gave it because we pressured them to give this education to us. The second thing which happened was the opening of a very historical institution. We had a person called Pachepa Modaliyar who died at a very young age. He was a Dubash under British East India Company. He amassed large amount of land, acres and acres of land. So what he did was he drew a will, and that will was drawn somewhere in 1750s. Literally about 80 years after his death, Sir George Norton, after seeing this pressure which was there, felt that what the natives were saying is correct. So Sir George Norton went and told to Elphinstone, we can do one more thing, this is half finished, I want to ensure that I make sure that this will, what is there in the contents of the will, because in the contents of the will that Pachepa left, to start Veda Padashalas is also there, and to start native education for the people of Madras Presidency. That was his most important thing. And endowment to various public charities, including for various pagodas. Pagodas are religious temples. Temples what we have, for example, is the Ekamareshwar temple which we have in Kanchipuram, and the Vadaraja Perumal temple which is there in Kanchipuram right now. So what Pachepa Modaliyar did at that point of time was he drew this will. 80 years after the death of Pachepa Modaliyar, Sir George Norton came forward. Even now you have a thing called Norton Hall in Pachepa College, named after him, because it was Mr. Norton as Advocate General who ensured that this will comes and sees its fruition and sees the light of the day. So this was put into force, and Pachepa institution was established in Esplanade in Broadway in Madras. After which in 1849, this grand edifice which is there in the front page of our book, this edifice came into being in 1849. When this edifice came into being in 1849, after that time onwards, one of the key and important trustees of Pachepa College from that point of time onwards for Pachepa charities was Gazulu Laxminarasu Chetty. From that point of time onwards till his death, till 1868 when he died, till that time onwards, till that time in Pachepa College or in Pachepa Charities, because the college did not come that point of time, it was a high school then, it was called Pachepa Charities. For Pachepa Charities, Gajula Laxminarasu Chetty was the director in Pachepa institution. This particular portrait which we have in the front copy of the book, even now it is available in Pachepa College. We are having a memorial on the 6th of September in Pachepa College in his honor. The original memorial, probably perhaps the only one existing surviving photo, or rather this painting of Gazulu Laxminarasu Chetty, is right now in Pachepa. So we would like to thank Pachepa College for giving us the permission to do so. Thirdly, what happened after that was there were various native people who had ensured that they got the benefit of having English education. Now once they did that, they had started becoming equal to an extent with that of the British. So the British thought that we had to do something, otherwise this will see, once they get the British values, the British value of rule of law and other things comes into fore, then the British knew that their time in India was numbered. This they felt in 1844. So at that point of time what they did was they wanted to have a clampdown on education. So what Gazulu Laxminarasu Chetty did was at that point of time to ensure that these charitable institutions starts into force and he ensured that the Pachepa charities became a beacon of hope for the native people to get education. Next, coming to printing press, it's a very interesting thing. Till 1843, from what we can see, Augustus Hickey was the first person to have started the Hickey's Gazette in Calcutta. After that, you have various newspapers, like for example in Madras you have the Madras Courier, which was the first newspaper which was owned by the British, which was started in Madras. Then you have the Athenaeum, you had various other newspapers, you had the Spectator, which right now is a very important international newspaper, and then you have something called as the Madras Record, which was the organ of the British people to spread their religion. Now what happened was at that point of time, the British people had an unwritten rule. There was an apartheid. I hope you know what apartheid means. There was an unwritten apartheid and a general rule that there will be no native Indians who can own a printing press till that point of time. So what Gazulu Laxminarasu Chetty did was, he brought a printing press using his good offices, because he was a very rich man. He had dealings with America and through various other countries and the French too. So he got a printing press into Madras in number 13 Armenian Street. In number 13 Armenian Street, from what we know from the records, from what we can see, subject to correction, is that he started the first native printing press to be started by a native Indian in 1844. This is not an ordinary thing. We are in 2024. Imagine at that point of time, 180 years before, he started a printing press on his own. It's not an ordinary thing at all. For us, we can think that getting a printing press is you give the money, you get it. No. It's very tough to start a printing press, that too against the British. It's not an ordinary thing. What he did was, he named the printing press called as the Hindu press. The press was named Hindu. The reason why he did that was, I as a Hindu am proud to be a Hindu. I don't care what you people say about my religion. I have the money,
I will start it in the name of Hindu. He didn't start it in his name. He could have started in the name of Sidulu and Chetty. He could have started in the name of Gajula Laxminarasu Chetty or in some other name. He did not do that. He started that press in the name of Hindu, representing that we as people, as collective Hindus, have the potential, have the talent, if given the opportunity, to be equal to you. Next, what he did was something which is very revolutionary. He started a newspaper called as the Madras Crescent. Crescent is named after Shiva's moon of Lord Thiruvannamalai. So he started this newspaper called Madras Crescent. Now there is a letter which we have kept in this book, which is dating back to 1848. In that letter, Captain C.P. Brown, or rather Commander C.P. Brown or whoever he is the Chief Postmaster General of entire Madras Presidency. He writes a letter to the Chief Secretary of Madras stating with the tabulation column as to the names of the newspapers and to the list of the number of periodicals, that is the number of publishing, circulation of each and every newspaper. What we can find astonishing at that point of time is that in 1848, in the month of March, the Madras Crescent, which is owned by Gazulu Laxminarasu Chetty, has 10,700 subscribers. I am talking about 1848. Telegraph did not come here. There was no telegram. There was nothing. Just imagine the paperwork alone. Paperwork alone at that point of time, you imagine 10,700 subscribers at that point of time. It is not an ordinary thing. And the editor at that point of time, he had a habit of not having Indian editors for English language magazine. For other newspapers, he had Indians. That's a different issue. As far as the English newspaper of Madras Crescent is concerned, it was tri-weekly, bi-weekly. Imagine people had the money and the capacity to subscribe for it by giving 2 rupees per month and 12 rupees per annum. It is equal to many tens of thousands today, adjusted to inflation. This is not an ordinary thing at all. And at that point of time, just imagine this for a moment. 10,700 subscribers are with you. What he did was something which was revolutionary. He started bringing out news items which was taking the British in the back foot. Now he was not idle. He did not say the British did this, so we support the British, we are happy with the British. No, he did not do that. He did something which was very revolutionary. All the editors in the English newspaper of Madras Crescent were Britishers. The longest serving editor for about more than 25 years was Mr. Henry Dexter, who was a former naval officer of the British Navy. Now the articles that he wrote was published abroad. The articles which was published in the Madras Crescent was also published abroad. To name a few newspapers, let me tell you, Hobart Courier, you have the Hong Kong and China Overseas Mail, you have the Homeward Mail of London, you have Huddersfield Chronicle, you have the Irish Spectator, and you have a large number of news papers available in London who published the news which was there in the Madras Crescent at that point of time. This is not an ordinary thing. If I am a British person, if I am there in London, I would publish the news item which is coming from white owned newspapers. I would not publish something which a native Indian publisher does, but they did that. And the news item which they had did not say that so many people died, we have obituary column, page 3 like what the newspapers have right now. No. It was in the forefront of investigative journalism, because sir is from the journalism perspective. I don't know how many of you are journalists here, but it was in the forefront of investigative journalism. Imagine for a moment, this is the actual thing which happened, which we have the entire set of the summary of the the proceedings with us. The British government publishes various government orders which comes in the government gazette. All right. One such publication that the British government did not publish, please note this, the British government did not publish, but it was there in the minutes of the members of the governing council, was pertaining to Devasthanams, that is pagodas. Pagodas means temples. How to utilize surplus funds and lands belonging to our Hindu temples, take that money for the betterment of the administration and the colonial administration. This was not published because 3 members within the British Council said you will be alarming the natives, don't do that. But the plan was in place, it was not put into fruition. What Gajula Laxminarasu Chetty did was, he took that plan and he published it in the Crescent that the British are going to do this. We have information from our sources. The source's name, they had a nom de plume or an alias called as Plain Speaking Man and Windex. Windex is very important person with the index, and Plain Speaking Man. These were the 2 names based upon which this thing was published. Imagine you are the governor of Madras, what will you do? How furious you will be. You were still not being able to find out how the information were inside. You had 5 white people talking amongst themselves in Fort St. George. That information is going to that native person in number 13 Armenian Street, 2 kilometers away. How did he publish this? They were not able to understand. It turned out there was a person by name Venkatacharyalu Naidu, who was also a person of Telugu background. He was a Telugu translator in the political home department of the British in Fort St. George. Interestingly, I have it here in Telangana. What he did was, the moment he got the copy, he used to translate this into Telugu. 2 copies, one fair copy, one rough copy. So that's what people used to think. But he used to do both. He was an excellent Telugu translator. So what he did was, he used to write 2 copies because we didn't have Xerox or photo or WhatsApp that point of time. Instantly, in 2 papers, he used to write the fair copy itself. 1 copy he used to show the British. He used to say this is the rough copy, this is not required. On the way back home, he used to give that copy to Gazulu Laxminarasu Chetty, number 13 Armenian Street, have tea with him and go. Till then, in Madras Presidency, police and tax authorities were together. You didn't have a department called as intelligence department till this event. From what we know, you had military intelligence, you had naval intelligence, that was different. For local thing amongst that, you did not have such a well organized intelligence network what we have today through the intelligence. We did not have it at that point of time. So what the British were unfounded, they had no idea how did this get printed. Then they conducted an inquiry. In Armenian Street, you had another newspaper called as the Madras Record newspaper. There was a person who was there called Samuel Bowie. He wanted to become the editor of Madras Crescent because that was the largest subscribed native newspaper of Madras. It was the most happening newspaper in Madras at that point of time. So he went for a job offer with Gazulu Laxminarasu Chetty. He was an English person. Gazulu said, "I am sorry boss, I already have Harvey, so I cannot have you. So he is already there, I don't have a vacancy. I can make you as a sub-editor if Harvey says yes." He joined as a sub-editor. He was found to be in company of Scotch whiskey quite very often, and Harvey said, "I can't have you here, please, I am a naval person, even I have Scotch but not during my work, so I cannot have you," and he went out of the Madras Crescent. He worked with the Madras Crescent for very few months. After he went out, but he knew in that very few months, this is how the paperwork was being done. So he wanted to take revenge on Harvey, and he wanted to take revenge on this Venkatacharyalu Naidu, because there was a fight between him and Venkatacharyalu Naidu when they met in the Madras Crescent office. It is all there as part of the investigation which we have taken from the Madras archives, which is a 200-year-old handwritten note by the British, which we have in the books. That's how we come to know of this. We are not making up things. So what happened after that was, there was an inquiry which was conducted, by which time the inquiry was conducted by the Governor Marquis of Tweedledale, Sir George Hay. This person called Venkatacharyalu Naidu becomes the head translator of Telugu in Chengalpet district. He is posted as with the promotion to Chengalpet district. So what happens after that is, there is a summary inquiry conducted and the British government dismisses this particular person called Venkatacharyalu Naidu. Interestingly, he comes and he has another newspaper which he is starting through the help of Gazulu Laxminarasu Chetty. that is called as the Rising Sun newspaper, which is a very important word, which is there, which proof we have the documentary evidence of that. Now there is few other things that Gajula Laxminarasu Chetty did during his lifetime. I'll just sum it up in just about 5 minutes time, not beyond that. Point 1 was the British were planning to introduce Bible as a mandatory curriculum. I am talking about the British Christian missionaries, not our Indian Christian missionaries. Our Indian Christian missionaries are our brothers. So I would like to say that on record. We have British Christian missionaries. They were planning to introduce the Bible as a mandatory curriculum. If you need to be proficient in geography, if you need to be proficient in trigonometry, in maths, you need to know geometry. A square plus B square is equal to how much? You need to know where Jesus was born. That is a basic thing for you to have entrance into schools, even for you to have access to libraries. This was your predominant base requirement for you to do, which was there by the British, which is all recorded. In 7th of October 1846, 12,000 people, despite rains, it was monsoon at that point of time in Madras, outside Pachayappa College, they came, and it was a huge demonstration. The British had not seen this kind of demonstration ever in their lives at that point of time. It was a huge demonstration. They demonstrated against this particular thing being happening, and they documented a memorial which we have kept, a copy which we have kept. The chairman of that meeting is Gajula Laxminarasu Chetty. That is why we have over here as chairman Gajula Laxminarasu Chetty. Now they write down all the atrocities, what all happened between the Christian missionaries at that point of time and how they were in cahoots with the British authorities. They write to the governor and to the 3 members who are in the governing council. The composition of the East India Company at the point of time is you have the governor and the other members in the governing council. Now when this thing is brought up before the British, they try to say we will just close it. They just came, they protested, we will close it. Unfortunately or fortunately for British, you had a person called Henry Chamius. His father was John Chamius, who was Chief Secretary of Madras. Henry Chamius was a member in the governing council of Madras. He was born in Madras, had education back in England, and he came back to Madras. At that point of time, Henry Chamius wrote not 1, not 2, but he wrote 3 dissenting minutes against the British introducing Bible as a mandatory language. We have kept those minutes. Those handwritten minutes copies we have kept. No history book will teach you this. Please be mindful of this. There will be no history book in India which will tell you this. We have brought this out in our book. This was stopped. This introduction of mandatory Bible, it was stopped. Because of this one man's effort of Gazulu Laxminarasu Chetty, it was stopped. Otherwise, we don't know how many of us, what religion will be, we don't know. I don't want to be controversial, but still we have recorded, so I'll make it very clear. Third thing what Gazulu Laxminarasu Chetty did was, on 26th of February 1852, he started what is the first political organization for Madras Presidency. It is called the Madras Native Association, which was there in number 13 Armenian Street. I will not take beyond 3 minutes. I will just say what he has done. In number 13 Armenian Street, he had at that point of time, we have all news channels right now, newspapers right now to cater to the ideologies. I am not saying about my state, so please, I am sorry. See, we are in Telangana. I said I am not saying about my state. If you are thinking it wrong, I am not responsible. I have to go back to my state. So at that point of time, we had a newspaper called Rising Sun at that point of time.
Today also there is a Rising Sun.
I don't know about that. See, he started this organization called Madras Native Association 8 years after he started the Madras Crescent newspaper. In the printing press that he started, like he said, he not only had it for this particular thing, he had for various other things. He had it for how Sanskrit and how Maths are one and the same. What we have, Srinivasa Ramanujam, what he did in Cambridge, we had people at that point of time using something to see astronomy at that point of time. This is recorded, and it was published through this works called Upayukta Grantha Karana Sabha, Madras Mahajana Upayukta Grantha Karana Sabha. He was head of various institutions. Interestingly, he was also he was a trustee of one institution called Monega Chowdhury, which is called Maniyakara Chatram, which is a place where when Hyder Ali came, the entire area was in famine. In Madras, I am talking about North Madras, there was one temple, Maniyakara is temple's manager, one temple manager who knew that he was coming. So underground he kept rice bags. When Hyder Ali went, he bought all those rice bags out. He was feeding 30,000 people 3 times a day. That I did not say, the British have said that. That became known as Maniyakara Chatram. That is where we have the Stanley Hospital today. Now in Maniyakara Chatram, there were 2 main important directors. You have 2 category of directors. One is the native director, European director. The native director was Gajula Laxminarasu Chetty, because they were in charge of doing the charity activities, feeding the poor people as much as possible. Poor feeding, what we call as Annadana. That point of time they did that. The European director was Captain Christopher Biden. Yes, Captain Christopher Biden, who is supposed to be an ancestor of Joe Biden. Supposed to be, I don't know if he's there or not, I don't know, I can't say that. Tomorrow there will be some organization against me doing something, so I'll make it very clear, I don't know. I've said in the book also, I don't know. But there was a very good person called Captain Christopher Biden, who was Irish Catholic. That is also incidental and coincidental that he is Irish Catholic. And you had him having an agreement with Gazulu, because it was in the same Armenian street. They both were board of directors in Maniyakara Chatram, and he had a library of 800 books, which through an agreement he shared it to the subscribers of Madras Crescent in Madras. So if the British were giving you no access to library just because you wouldn't know or be proficient in one particular religion or something of that sort, you had the Madras Crescent which said, you subscribe to my newspaper, I will give you accessory to a library which is there by a white man. This minimum thing they were able to do. Coming back to Madras Native Association. Madras Native Association, immediately after it was started based on the British Indian Association, which was started in in Calcutta. Madras Native Association was one of the most important first association which was started for emancipation for the rights of us natives. The reason why we say that he's fought so much is because of Madras Native Association. No other person in Madras at that point of time in 1852 to 1858 has fought so much. What he did was, he did a British on the British. So what the Conservative Party did or the Whig Party did in London, he adopted the same strategy. He had a successful newspaper as the mouthpiece to say his ideas in each and every district, starting from Vengurla in this side towards Karnataka and this side Ganjam towards the east. District wise, they had people who were members of this organization. They used to have resolutions week after week, meetings after meetings, resolutions after resolutions, asking for better emancipation of us natives, to have better representation in government jobs and for various other aspects. One very important thing that they did at the point of time was torture with regard to taxation. The British were collecting tax. They were doing torture for collecting tax. I don't want to say what torture they did, because it is really below my dignity to say what torture they did, because it is so inhuman what the British did with regard to imposing of torture, the manner in which they tortured us as natives. How many people died as a result of the torture? It was unimaginable. It was unimaginable, because when you see that the person who was responsible for doing that as a judge, he started crying. The British person, he started crying. That is how worst it was. It was worse than what the British did in Ireland. That is how worst it was. So what happened was, he sent memorials after memorials. What Gajula Laxminarasu Chetty did through Madras Native Association was, memorials after memorials were sent to London, to the House of Commons in Great Britain. At that point of time in the Parliament, had 5 people. Earl of Ellenborough, because I have a chapter called A Few Good Englishmen, were white British members of Parliament belonging to the ruling party of Britain at that point of time. Just imagine this for a moment. In England, they were white British people, they were members of Parliament of Great Britain in the House of Commons, and they were belonging to the members of the ruling party at that point of time. Earl of Ellenborough, the Earl of Albemarle, I would like to say their names because they were towards our cause. The Earl of Ellenborough, Earl of Albemarle, you had people like Henry Danby Seymour, who was a very pivotal person in bringing this thing to the fore, who was a member of the full who was a member of the full constituency of Great Britain, and you had various other people. At that point of time, you had a person by name Mr. Blackett. They were not ordinary people. They were not land-owned class. They were the top elite people at that point of time. They were the who's who in Great Britain at that point of time. All right. These people, after coming to know these memorials, they were shocked. So what happened was, in the House of Parliament, just imagine this for a moment. Forget our Parliament, our Secretariat, our Assembly, we need not go into that. Think for a moment, in Great Britain's Parliament, in House of Commons, this was the matter of debate for 3 continuous days. Not 1, not 2, but 3 continuous days in London. And in all leading newspapers in London, we have kept the copies. It came in headlines. For a person from Madras to have created this impact in London society at that point of time is not an ordinary thing. It is not an ordinary thing to do it in our own state. Doing it in London at that point of time against the British, that is what I said, doing a British against the British. That is what he did. At that point of time, there was a discussion which took place. It was put to vote. For the first time, from what I can see, for past 10 years, the House was not divided, which means they will say yes or they will say no. When this matter was put to vote, whether we need to have a commission to inquire into the findings of the torture which took place in Madras, when this matter was put into vote, the House was divided. Neither yes nor no, which means 62 yes, 62 no. The House was divided. It was a hung assembly. It was one of the most major political embarrassments for the British government at that point of time. The Russian Tsar had ridiculed, because they were having system of smurfs against Tsar Nicholas Alexander or whoever was there at that point of time in 1850s. They had a system of smurfs in Russia. So the British were mocking at them. Incidentally, you had a person by name Mr. Wilson, Harold, his name is Wilson, who was the person who was responsible for introducing the budget in India as we know. We have a budget every year, we all know that. It was introduced by Mr. Wilson, and that Wilson person was voting against this torture commission. All right. He himself came from a farming community family. He was not a very well known person at that point of time. At this point of time, they were mocking. He was instrumental in starting the Economist newspaper, that Wilson person, which we have even now today. He is buried in Calcutta. He wrote articles against the Russian Tsar. Karl Marx had criticized Wilson for being an elitist conservative person of the British. That is how Wilson was, that Wilson of that point of time. Now, what happened was, after the House was divided, Queen Victoria intervened and said, you people are doing all these things in my name. Please, that we have the communications, you please make sure that you have a commission being established to inquire into what happened in Madras. Immediately a commission was appointed in Madras, not like our commissions what we do in Indian government. It was a proper commission. We had commissions where we had the governor, we had a person by name Sir John Bruce Norton, who later on became the Advocate General of the Madras High Court, who was a very close friend of Gajula Laxminarasu Chetty, and you had Sir Walter Elliot. If you see the findings, because it was the first time that they gave notice, they called for hearings from the people. There were testaments, there were documentary evidence tabulated through what happened in the eyes of the natives. This is the first time that the white person was giving a lending ear to all the torture that was committed, as if a sea of afflicted had come to lodge their grievances with regard to the British. If you see the kind of torture that they have committed, it is documented through witness. This is not an ordinary thing. Documented through witness in thousands. It is there. Frequently they broke down. The British administrators didn't know the kind of the huge amount, the mammoth amount of torture that was the undercurrent which was in them. They didn't know. It was at that point of time that they realized we have been so, we have been so inhuman in this fight of all our, outside thing that we will give education, we are equal to everybody, long live the glorious king, all those things. Despite that, despite these virtual things of the Western hypocrisy that we know, they did this. After doing this, they sent a report. That report, through a recommendation, is very historical. It said 3 things, or rather 5 things. I'll sum it off after that. First and foremost, torture as a method for collecting tax against natives shall be abolished. Point number 2, till then you had the police and the revenue, which was a single unit at that point of time. After that, the dehyphenation started. Police, as we know today, is a separate department, and the revenue, which was separated at that point of time. And third, all those people who were responsible for this torture, including the native people who had to do that to please the British masters, including the native people who were responsible for doing torture to please the British masters, including them and the British people, like a person by name Mr. Shubrik, including them, they will be brought to task and justice will be given. In fact, it was followed up and it was given. This was taken to the House of Commons. Immediately it was signed, and as we know today, we are living today, police is separate, revenue administration is separate, torture is not there in collection of tax. This was responsible because of this one person called Gajula Laxminarasu Chetty. If not for him, this would not have happened. If not for him, this would not have happened. Now, after the first war of independence, in 1861 we had a Charter Act. The British knew very well that he had been the driving force in ensuring that in a non-violent manner, in a purely democratic manner, he had done something for his own native people. So, Queen Victoria at that point of time was in a reproachment attitude towards us Indians. So, what she did was in 1864 on Tamil New Year's Day, on 15th of April in Tamil New Year's Day at that point of time, 14th of April he was appointed, 15th of April he took his seat. He became a member, a honorary nominated member, the second native honorary nominated member of the Madras Legislative Council. Interestingly, he was responsible for writing in the Madras Crescent that you are giving gun salute, higher number of gun salute to the Bishop of Madras and Bombay. You are not giving a higher number of gun salutes to the the Chief Justice, or you are not giving the higher number of gun salutes for your own naval admirals who is responsible for your stay in India. After that, in this point of time, when he became a honorable member, he was accorded a 15 gun salute by the British. Just imagine this for a moment. He was accorded a 15 gun salute by the British, which was
salute to the pastors was stopped.
Stopped. The gun salute to the British bishops was stopped, and it was given to Gajula Laxminarasu Chetty. Last but not the least, he then was awarded something called as the Order of the Star of Companion of India at the hands of Queen Victoria. And he also had a newspaper called Madras and Carnatic Telegraph Exchange Gazette, which was a pioneer newspaper for information technology at that point of time. At that point of time, the only information technology that we had was telegraph. It was a huge thing at that point of time. After that, in 1868, unfortunately, he passed away. After his passing away, his son Narsu Chetty became, till his death, he was a trustee of Pachepa College, of Pachepa Charities. His son Narsu Chetty became a trustee in Pachepa College after that in 1868. And there was a memorial which was held in his honor, which was held by Sir John Bruce Norton, who was also a member at that point of time, and he was the Advocate General at that point of time of Madras Presidency, and he was the founding member of the Madras Bar Association at that point of time. His portrait was commissioned through public subscription through John Fonseca. That portrait is even now there in Pachepas, for which we are having a memorial on the 6th of September, which is 5 days or 6 days from now. After that, what happened after that? Just 1 minute, it is very interesting. This 1 minute will be very interesting. You had a person by name, Early Norton, who was the son of John Bruce Norton, Sir Early Norton. He also became an Advocate General in his own right. He was called as the Lion of the Madras Bar. Early Norton was called as the Lion of the Madras Bar. He had a friend called Bhashyam Iyengar, who has a statue in the Madras High Court premises. He was the first native Advocate General at that point of time. And then you had another person who was son of a pleader, who was a teacher called Tanjavur Dikshitar Subramanya Iyer. These three people are very important. What they did, I will just tell you, and I will finish off. They came together, they revived the Madras Native Association. Again, in 1883, Bhashyam Iyengar was the president, Early Norton was their chief advisor, legal advisor, and you had this Tanjavur Ganapati Dikshitar Subramanya Iyer as the secretary of Madras Native Association. The Hindu newspaper, as we know today, was founded by Tanjavur Dikshita Ganapati Subramania Iyer. It was subsequently later on purchased by Kasturi Rangan Iyengar from this person called Tanjavur Dikshita Ganapati Subramania Iyer. Even today, we are thankful to the Hindu group for giving us access to their premises, for ensuring that we took the photo of the bust of Tanjavur Dikshita Subramania Iyer, which is still there in the first floor in the Hindu office, which we have kept in the book. It is there in the book, which was raised through public subscription. And he was the secretary of the Madras Native Association at that point of time. And Vempakam Bhashyam Iyengar became the president of Madras Native Association. He then became a judge also of the Madras High Court. At that point of time, the people who were leading the Madras Native Association, what they did was they formed a group called Madras Mahajana Sabha, which we can see from the Madras Mahajana Sabha anniversary celebrations. A splinter group from that, which metamorphized, went and founded what we know today as the Indian National Congress. So the root starts from there. That is how it is. This is what we have done in this book. We have taken handwritten materials from the British Library. We have taken handwritten materials from the Madras Archives. The Madras Archives is a treasure of handwritten materials. We have 200-year-old handwritten materials which we have taken through archives from the Madras Archives, which is now called as the Tamil Nadu Historical Archives, which we have taken, which we have kept in the book to support all our claims, what I just said right now. It is through documentary evidence which we have proved. So this is how we wrote the book, and I would like to once again thank all of you for being patient over here and for all of you to have listened to my speech very patiently. This is what the book is all about. Copy also of the book to others, and please make sure that each and every person whom you meet, you indulge in a conversation with them so that you spread the fame through word of mouth about Gajula Laxminarasu Chetty to others. That is the minimum that we can do for these freedom fighters who fought for us. If not for him, we all would have been completely different. So if not for him, to sacrifice that kind of work what he did in Sidulu Chetty and Sons, he could have made it an international company. Yes. He did not do that. He said, I will use my wealth to ensure that, to show to the British, I am equal to you. That we as native Indians, as Hindus, we are equal to the white British imperialistic people at that point of time. To sum it all up, I would like to thank all of you for being patient, and especially CSIS and G for giving me this opportunity. Thank you so much, Sudhakar Ji, for coming, and also Kasturi Rangan Ji, thank you so much for coming. He is incidentally named after the founder of the Hindu, the purchaser of the Hindu. He is named after the person who purchased the newspaper. He was in fact a freedom fighter. Kasturi Rangan Iyengar in fact was a freedom fighter. He is named after him. So yeah, you are named after him. He was born before you. He in fact died before he was born. So we would like to honor him at that point of time. Kasturi Rangan Iyengar himself, because we are talking about journalism, he himself was a freedom fighter, and he had this pride with him that he was an Indian. So we have to honor him, keeping jokes apart. We have great respect for him. So I would like to thank all of you for being patient and for listening to my speech. Thank you all of you. Thank you.
I think after this very enthralling discussion, what we are going to say is going to sound very prosaic. So we thank all the guests today. When we were going through this book, we were really eager to meet you. So finally we met the author today. So it's a very, very engaging book. Whoever I've been meeting, I've been talking about this Commission of Inquiry, Torture Commission, etc. It's a must-read book. It's published in 3 languages, English, Telugu and Tamil. So all of you are welcome to sort of buy and read and so on. So basically, I just want to say a few words about Samvit Prakashan. So first of all, thank you for a very engaging sort of, talk by both you and Raka Sudhakarji. Now we know that, what a brilliant advocate, author and storyteller you are. So it was very, very interesting. Samvit Prakashan has been in the business of publications for the last 3.5 years. We have produced more than 40 titles. Predominantly our focus is in Telugu because we need to bring out such rare and valuable content in Telugu. That has been our focus. So we have published great works in history and in philosophy. One of our books is the Sivasikulam that you are going to read, and you know it's a brilliant book basically. So we have brought out very important titles actually. If you see that, you know, we have got a series of books on Hyderabad liberation struggle. We have got, to understand various religions, we have got a series of books on both Islam and Christianity. So to name, for example, in Telugu we've got Islam Antarangam, Tipu Sultan, also Christianity, Christavam recently. So we have got a series of books on very important and rare topics that, you know, very few would dare to touch. So we are doing a lot of research publications. Like this is an original research work. So we are also doing several other books on that. So you are all welcome to sort of please buy, read, publicize, spread the word. This book, as I said, you know, it's published in 3 languages. There is also a collector's item actually. Raka Sudhakar garu would be very, very happy to see it in fact. It's a very 500-600 pages worth of, you know, research documents that they have published actually. Ide pustakam? Sorry, yeah, this one. You would love to sort of, you know, go through that. So it speaks volumes about the kind of research work that Jagannath Garu has done actually. So we are very honored to sort of do this publication in fact. So we also have got other titles like, you know, I want to mention the book Swarna Bharati because you mentioned the 1833 Guntur famine. Yes. So that book also has a lot of references to what the British have, you know, how the British have exploited all Indians, especially agriculture and, you know, trade and commerce. So it gives detailed descriptions of, you know, what happened during that time. So you can see that, you know, we are reconstructing the history in different ways. You know, Swarna Bharati and Satyadeva Prasad gari Swarna Bharati. Dantlo kuda idanta kuda. So it actually is a book, you know, which covers the 2000 years of economic history of Bharat. So it has a particular piece on this as well. So you can see that, you know, we are publishing very, very rare works on politics, on history, on philosophy and so on. So you are welcome to sort of, you know, visit our site samvitprakashan.com. You please also procure the books on Hindu eShop. So our friends are also here. They would love to sort of tell you that. So tomorrow is the release of the launch of the Telugu publication of Gajula Laxminarasu Chetty. Saraswati Vidya Mandir kadandi. Khairtabadlo Saraswati Vidya Mandir. You are all welcome to sort of, you know, IMAX Keduruga Saraswati Vidya Mandirlo. Ide pustakam Telugu pustakam launch రేపు జరగబోతోంది పొద్దున 10:30కి. మీరందరూ రావాల్సిందిగా మా స్వాగతం, మీకు అందరికీ మా స్వాగతం basically. So we are also doing lot of other work actually. We are doing some reprinting of old works like Political Islam. We are also translating some good works, you know, which are in English and Hindi. So please visit our site and, you know, we welcome more of your suggestions and feedback, as well as, you know, we would like all of you to be our ambassadors, you know, in spreading the good word actually. Thank you so much.
It's really very late, but we are not feeling that, I hope. We almost went till 1700s and now yet to come back to 2024. Our Dakshinapada studies, sincere thanks to the writer Sri Jagannath ji for gracing the occasion, Raka Sudhakar ji giving us very good leads for forwarding our research work, and Kastur Ranganji, he is from our family, so special thanks for Kastur Ranganji, and our sincere thanks to all the audience here who braced the rain and came down here to attend this good session. And a lot of people have messaged me personally. If you have video, please send it to me. So special thanks to all those people who are following up for the video, because they are interested to come but they couldn't make it. We give our special thanks to them. And we give our special thanks to our video coverage and media coverage. And our special thanks to Ajayam Strategy for supporting with book exhibition and doing some background work, particularly Satish ji, Ramesh ji and Fani ji. Our special thanks to Adroitech Engineering for giving this beautiful place for this program. And I have my personal and special thanks to Chandana Bhavani and Skanda for organizing beautifully. And I sincerely thank every staff member sitting here and helping us all. Thanks one and all. We'll conclude it